Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to talk about Monokuma into a much bigger battlefield scenario. I finally have a much clearer opinion about this job. And honestly, when I first looked at Monokuma, I had pretty high expectations. Because on paper, this job looks like it has almost everything. We have a physical long-range attacker, very good movement, good counterattack mechanics, utility skills, anti-death tools, pretty good tankiness. We have the ability to constantly pressure the enemy from a distance, and have mechanics that can make Monokuma untargetable while using Elusive mode. It sounds like the recipe for a very strong PvP job. But after actually playing it, my first taste of Monokuma was quite a bitter one. The biggest problem for me right now is the Elusive skill bug. Sometimes when I use Elusive, my character simply gets stuck. And when I say stuck, I mean completely stuck. You can't properly move. And sometimes the only way to get out of the situation is to die or relog from the game. If you don't do that, you can basically stay stuck for an extremely long time. For a job whose biggest selling point is supposed to be mobility, having the mobility skill itself potentially lock your character in place is obviously a very serious problem. And this is especially frustrating in WoE or large-scale GVG. I don't think Monokuma should be judged at its full potential until these bugs are resolved. The second disappointment is the auto-expel mechanic. From the description and the way I initially understood it, I expected Monokuma's high-level skill, progression to provide a much stronger effect when killing an enemy. Auto-expelling an enemy after killing them would be extremely valuable in WoE or GVG, but what I'm actually seeing is more like an additional resurrection delay. So instead of completely removing the enemy from the battlefield, we're basically making their resurrection take longer. That is still useful. A resurrection delay is a good debuff, but it's obviously not as powerful as an actual automatic expulsion. Another major problem is Monokuma's forced fire element. All of the damage skills are tied to fire, and this becomes very easy for the enemy to counter. Once players start stacking fire resistance, you can immediately feel the difference. Once I encountered someone properly prepared against fire damage, the numbers dropped dramatically. And this is where Monokuma's biggest weakness becomes obvious. The job doesn't really have that huge burst power that you normally expect from a primary DPS. Instead, Monokuma relies more on frequency. You keep attacking, throwing skills, applying pressure, stacking small hits. And eventually, those hits can become meaningful, but you simply don't have enough burst to finish the target. Their support can arrive and cover them. I see it much more as a secondary long-range pressure DPS with utility. But despite all of those problems, because there are actually several things about this job that I really like. First is the range. This is probably one of Monokuma's biggest advantages. When using Elusive mode, the range can reach around 13.5 meters. And with the appropriate GVG equipment, it can be pushed to 16.2 meters. It means Monokuma can stay relatively far away from the main clash and still contribute damage and pressure. And if you have a strong enough DPS build, you can sometimes pick off vulnerable targets before they even get close to your front line. But again, Monokuma isn't really a primary burst DPS. Think of it more like a long-range P shooter supporting the main damage dealers. You're constantly shooting, you're constantly applying pressure, and you're looking for opportunities to finish targets that are already weakened. Another thing I really like is the skill frequency. The cooldown and delay of the skills, especially when you're using the different Monokuma modes, can feel extremely fast, can continuously throw attacks at the enemy, without having those long periods where you're simply waiting for your next skill. And this is actually where Monokuma can become very annoying. If the enemy doesn't have the right counter available, you can basically keep attacking them over and over again. However, there is one natural counter that I have to mention. Jormungandr can interfere with the Monokuma doll-based mechanics, and that can significantly reduce the effectiveness of the job. So if the enemy has enough Jormungandr players properly positioned, Monokuma suddenly has a much harder time maintaining that pressure. And this is another reason why I don't think Monokuma is going to completely replace the existing meta jobs. It has strengths, but it has weaknesses, and it has counters. Honestly, I think this job has potential. But right now, I think it is much more suitable for smaller scale PvP formats, especially something like 6v6, where its mobility, range, pressure, and utility can have a much bigger impact. So when I compare Monokuma directly against those established jobs, I'm still not convinced that Monokuma has found its perfect place yet. Monokuma is interesting. Monokuma is fun. Monokuma definitely brings something fresh to the battlefield. But right now, I would describe it as too many bugs. That's my current opinion after testing Monokuma in large-scale battle. This is still not my final verdict, because I want to test more builds, more equipment combinations, and more situations before giving the job a final rating. But hopefully this gives you guys a better idea of where Monokuma currently stands. Thank you for watching, guys. Let me know what you think about Monokuma. Do you think this job can actually become a strong GVG job after the bugs are fixed? Or do you think Monokuma is better suited for a smaller scale PvP? See you guys in the next video.